All right, welcome to a very special episode of Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the bead and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. Very special because Sam gets his period. No, wait, that can happen now.
Theoretically, just got to take some hormone blockers or something 30
Who
years
knows?
ago.
All right, welcome to the Affable Gentleman, because we're going to be talking about The Witcher.
Yep. And as we are talking about The Witcher, I'm wearing my Ruana cloak because I know more about medieval history than the idiots who wrote this damn story.
Well, I was going to troll the Affable Gentleman by dressing like him with the suspenders and the white shirt and the bow tie, but I had to roll straight from work. But also our sponsor, Real Fitness and Performance, and also Oikos 000.
Yeah,
Please sponsor us.
like delicious.
Just 3 containers a week we'll take for our sponsorship, something like that. I mean, we don't need
That'll
much.
work.
Yeah,
that'll work. It gives me protein and helps me poop.
It's good for your gut bacteria.
All right. So
is this good for the setup? Do y'all want to do this, or do you want me to move everything around? Or
it's absolutely fine on me.
Okay,
so
you like to be on bottom?
Idiot. I'm the idiot who had this idea, and I don't know why.
And I misread his damn text, or
Yes.
I would be much more clean in my mind and in my soul. But
because I had told him so Sam felt bad about, the little bit of ranting. I keep bringing up Rings of Power, and he thought, well, I got to watch it if I'm going to criticize it. So he suffered through the entirety of that pile of feces that looked like something Hamilton had drug in after he had half eaten it and then thrown it up and then eaten it again and then came back in to throw it up. I don't think that's an exaggeration, is it, Sam?
No, it's pretty close.
No, I meant that Hamilton has done that before.
Oh, and man, he was rolling something around in his mouth, and I was like, "What the heck are you chewing on?" And he wasn't even chewing it; he was just rolling it around. And I popped him in the back of the head, and out popped a possum head.
And you would rather deal with that than watch Rings of
Power. The body was in my wife's bed, so
it was a present. So I volunteered to watch Blood Origin since I didn't watch Rings of Power. And
or Kaepernick or whatever.
Or Kaepernick. Yeah, no Kaepernick for me. So I said I'll jump on that grenade. I'll bend over and hope it uses lube. And I have a confession to make. Not only did you misread it and then watch it, I made it through 30 minutes.
You didn't watch it?
Heath didn't even watch it.
It's only 4 freaking episodes.
I tell you what, I heard some people talking about it, and I kind of fast forward some of the people I watched, like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, because I didn't want my my taint to be tainted. So I was like, okay, I know you hate it, so I don't want to get too deep into why. So let me just, skip that, come back to it later after I've watched it. I didn't hate it.
The 30 minutes that you saw of it.
Yeah, the 30 minutes that I saw was, why does this even exist? I was bored.
Well, not only was that not the worst 30 minutes, but there were actually good parts, and they weren't in that 30 minutes.
It was so predictable.
Well, yeah.
It was so predictable that it was bleh. So and there are technical reasons for it as well that are just mind-boggling if you took like a half decent honors English course in high school, that you would know not to do this. Okay. Affable Gentleman, you have played some games, read some books, watched some movies in your time.
Sure.
What is the purpose of the narrator in storytelling? What is the purpose of that mechanism?
The narrator is usually to fill in details, to give the either reader or the viewer information that might not be coming across. Give them some nuance, is at least what I would assume that a narrator is for.
Hey, Sam,
tell them what's going on inside the character's head or something, right?
Well,
and that you're about to make me go off on a tangent. on
one
She-Hulk.
thing
Don't do
about
that.
the narrator here was you have to understand also, which I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying this is probably one of the reasons they made this stupid decision. They're trying to fit a whole pre-story to a giant group of books and video games, et cetera, into 4 episodes of a
Now,
show with
on that
subpar
point,
acting.
Chuck, you are the most knowledgeable of the source material here. Is this in any way related to the source material?
I doubt this is even related to their own series. That's how far removed this is. This, there's certain things when you make an adaptation, you sometimes have to change certain things. Peter Jackson famously removed Tom Bombadil from Lord of the Rings because it basically interrupted the flow of the story.
Well,
right
even
there
in the
towards
books,
beginning.
that was a silly part of the books.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it was kind of awkward, and putting that into a movie, it was understandable that, hey, this is a completely expendable part. We can just cut this out, and it doesn't really affect the storyline too much. We can just have Strider give them the weapons, and you're good.
That was like in Quest for the Holy Grail, where they just say, well, Camelot's a silly place, and then they go on.
You just skip it.
Yeah.
This basically takes what is established and throws it away and replaces it with something not as good. Now, what I mean by that is the way Witcher does things is there are concrete data, lore released from websites and released. The narrator will say something, the author will say, this happened at a certain time. A lot of what happens in the story, like Yennefer will say that humans created magic. And it's like, okay, that's unreliable narrating, right? That is something she was taught in her sorceress studies at Aretusa. She doesn't know any better, but there's a lot of that in the novels that they talk about where you get this conflicting information. The elves say that we taught the humans magic. The humans say we learned about magic upon the first landing 500 years ago. All of that stuff actually makes things a lot more interesting because you, the reader, get to try to parse out kind of what the truth is.
And knowing what we know about our own history in this world, you can kind of interpret that in humans say they invented magic, but they invented magic in the way magic is done in Yennefer's kind of setting, whereas the elves do it differently.
Quite possible. And that's the thing, is that there's no firm answer. So when you come out and you're going to make a story that provides a firm answer, one, make sure it doesn't contradict the other firm answers that have already been established. And two, make sure it's actually worth telling, right? Make sure that it's a story that's actually interesting that people want to hear. And
so from what little I know from the series and from what I've talked to people, the conjunctions of worlds, that's a thing from the source material. The elves used to be a big deal, and then their civilization went to crap because of the humans. How and why is a little fuzzy, and that's about it as far as what was established, and then what they're trying to talk about in the series in the Blood Origin.
Let's give you guys a little history lesson of the realm of this world. This is for the books and for the CDPR games specifically. They follow this lore, which is this realm was a realm of dwarves and gnomes. Period. End of story. It's their world. Okay, they fought wars against the kobolds and shit. Elves arrived via magical portals 2,500 years before the events, before the humans arrived. And they went to war with the dwarves, right? There was a war for expansion. The elves are coming in. And it wasn't all the elves. Basically, their homeworld was dying. And so various cultures went off into other different realms. They traveled via magical portal into these realms. The ones that settled in this realm were called the Enshe. There are others that are called the NL. I can get into that in a little bit. There's a little bit of confusion via when they say 2,500 years before humans arrived. Is that when humans arrived on the continent or when humans arrived in this realm via the conjunction of spheres? I don't know. There's a little bit of nebulous ideal there. But yeah, elves went to war with the dwarves and the gnomes. Eventually, that all died down. Elves settled in the lowlands, dwarves settled in the mountains. The conjunction of spheres happened 1,500 years before the events of The Witcher. The show takes place at like 1,200 years before the events. And it's like, okay, why change that detail? That's when
especially even just change it a little. Why even change it a little? It makes no difference. Just have it 1,500.
Right. So that's when humans arrived. That's when halflings arrived, also called hobbits in the book, which I thought was kind of strange that Sapkowski just straight up calls them hobbits every once in a while, which is kind of cool. Vampires arrived during that time. Basically, the things that go bump in the night. Because of the conjunction of spheres, it mutates some of the existing creatures in the land, blah, 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 blah. That happens 1,500 years before the events of The Witcher. 500 years before the events of The Witcher is when humans arrive in the Northern Kingdoms for the first time. That's basically people coming to America, right?
And that's the setting of the show and the games, right? Is the Northern Kingdoms?
The Northern Kingdoms is the setting of the games and the shows and the books. And so this is 500 years before the events of the books is when humans arrived in that land and they went to war with the elves. And they started really butting heads and pushing, and there's to this day a lot of chaos and everything. So it's always a little frustrating for me because I'm just like, yeah, there is animosity between the dwarves and the elves from 2,500 years ago or whatever, when the elves first came here. I kind of liked the fact that they were showing the elves are kind of dicks in this in this show.
Well, and that's the thing you were talking about. The elves came to that planet to colonize, but it seems like in the show they combined those because they were trying to leave the planet to colonize in the show.
Again, they don't know what the hell they're doing in this show.
So they had the same mentality for the elves, but that a couple thousand years later and going the opposite direction, because the world everybody ends up in and is kind of flourishing from a food oriented standpoint when we get to it in The Witcher is the one they were trying to leave because it was dying. That was the incongruity, because I was thinking of that as the spheres were working towards the conjunction. I'm like, why are they trying to leave this dying world if this is the one we see thousands of years later and everything's fine?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you said something interesting there, Chuck, because this is one of the few interesting things that jumped out at me in the setup for the series is the song that she's singing at the beginning. And then yeah, it's stupid, but
one day she'll hit those notes.
They desperately wanted that to be a thing, it seems like to me. Like they wanted that to be what Jaskier is singing in the show, and they wanted that to be
the new toss a coin to your Witcher.
They desperately. And then when they switch to the kind of the central kingdom that they're looking at, and they throw it in again about the lowborn. And I thought, well, here's something interesting you can do, because the elves are this subjugated, abused group of people in this world, but there's nothing new under the sun. They were doing the same thing when they were in charge to their own people. This is something you could explore, which they just kind of
that's the depth of the Witcher setting. This is why Cavill went deuces, I'm out, is because
and it turned out the whole Superman thing was a farce, because he's not even Superman anymore.
I don't even think he was leaving just to go do Superman. I think he was just leaving to get the hell out of Dodge. And the Superman thing kind of presented itself and fell through and all that sort of stuff. And thankfully he's got Warhammer to fall back on. So hopefully 40K works out good for him.
We better cross dicks too.
But anywho, let's try to ignore what you just said.
All right, since I've derailed you, let me get to the thing I was about.
Go ahead, get to that thing.
Let me get my thing up here.
Don't cross it though.
That comes even before the dumb song. This is why I asked about the narrator. All right, because I have this paused here at the end of the narrator scene, and come on, stop being stupid. There. All right. So we're at just over 7 minutes in, and I have no reason to watch this show, because the narrator just told me the whole freaking story in a couple of minutes. That's not what a narrator's for, you morons. The narrator is to fill in gaps, and you had opportunities there. She didn't have to tell Jaskier the whole story because he's terrified of her. Minnie Driver could have just said, because if you don't listen to what I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to kill you and eat you.
Right.
Like he thought she was going to. So why did she have to tell the whole freaking story? And you actually started it off well. Ooh, holy crap.
We're just looking at black screen, dude. You can't share screen from Netflix. They put this in for privacy or piracy protection.
Bastard. I thought I could. If
no, you got to go to the high seas and find this.
You're only allowed to share public trailers and stuff.
Hold on. Let me go.
So for YouTube and everything, it should be fine.
Yeah, but they're not going to be on YouTube because they're copyrighted.
I understand. I'm just saying there were a lot of little icons at the top of that screen, a lot of little tabs.
Yeah, I thought you watched Critical Drinker. He explains that.
No.
That sometimes his things are not very the visuals aren't very diverse because he can only pull from the trailers because you can't show something, you have to actually go pay to see.
I forgot about that. I thought if I had
it takes some very specific hardware if you want to try to upload footage directly from
all right
Hulu or Netflix.
Well, not only that, it would get our video pulled for copyright issues.
That's why I didn't have
which I figured out how to edit to get it back on, but at the same time, don't make me go through that.
What was I in the middle? Oh yes. So the opening, you open with action. That's good. You actually open with a tie-in to the last season with, Jaskier's been gotten by the bad guys, and he's now a folk hero for the elves who are risking their lives to come save him. That's good. You have hooked in the existing audience to watch your new stupid show. And then within 2 minutes, you ruin it all by giving us the whole freaking story. And it's not just here is the outline of the story of the heroes that come together. You then double down on that by telling us who all of the adventurer warriors are. That's the point of the show, is to introduce characters and make us give a damn.
That's the challenge, though, that's what I always try to say is if you're going to fill in the blanks of a story, what you come up with, especially if it's been a mystery, what you come up with had better been good. I don't know I know both of you are of the right age that you can remember comic books. Wolverine's backstory in the comic books was always a mystery, and it was always getting changed and everything with false memory implants and such. And it's like, that's because none of the writers could actually come together and come up with a coherent idea of what the hell they wanted to do for his backstory. And there's this weird idea in Hollywood that if the fans like something in this period, they must want to know how it came to be. And that's not true. Like, if I remember back like in the 90s, early 2000s, I really thought Angelina Jolie was a good looking woman. That doesn't mean I want to take a look at John Voight's ball sack. I have no interest where she came from. Okay. I don't care. All right. Show me more Gia. That's fine. I'll watch some Gia, but I'm not interested in her origin. So don't shove that down my throat, okay?
Well, luckily I'm exactly the same age as Alyssa Milano. So when I had a crush on her when she was a kid, I was also a kid. So her backstory and going on was, it was all in line. Everything was kosher. We're good. And I don't care about her politics. I wouldn't kick her out of bed.
Yep. But you have these issues where the writers think they're smarter than the source material. The writers have dislike for the source material that has been covered with, I forget the writer who has now moved on to be the showrunner of the new X-Men cartoon series, mentioned that the other writers there actively despised the source material, which I just ran through kind of some of the basic history of this world. And it's just like, that is fertile ground. If you wanted to write a fantasy story, you could get into the difference between the cultures of the elves. There's the Enshe, which came to this world and is involved with the the politics of the Northern Kingdom stuff. Then there's the NL, which went to a different world and will still come and cause chaos in this. The Wild Hunt from the third video game, for example, is NL. They're from a different realm. They come via portal into this realm and just cause chaos.
Are they
except they made Aridin one of the regular ones and then had him whipped into this random portal, and then he picks up a skull and says, "Ooh, this will make a helmet," instead of some actual battle scene where he goes crazy and becomes psychotic and kills somebody and says, "I'm gonna,"
at least
it makes a helmet out of their skull.
Had Aridin and Brian making out earlier in this.
Oh yeah, that's right. They made him gay too. I forgot about that.
It
should have been Gales. It should have been him and Gales.
Is my screen right side out? Or inside?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, yeah, this is the main character of Witcher 3. This is also
main villain of Witcher 3.
The main antagonist. I'm sorry, main antagonist of Witcher 3. This is Aridin, who was the guy doing the bathhouse fun stuff, doing the little foot underneath the urinal thing or whatever. And it's just like, I look at some of this stuff and I go, yes, granted, this is the CDPR design of Aridin, and kind of similar to kind of what he was describing, the book, giant hulking guy, gruesome armor and stuff like that. Which badass. He wasn't
hulking in the show either.
He was a very slender man.
He was a slender
so
man.
You sit there and you go, it's almost like that meme where the kids are like, "Mom, can we stop and get chicken nuggets?" And mom says, "No, we have chicken nuggets at home." Right. And you look at the type of chicken nuggets you got at home and you go, what the hell is that? Come on. And this is another character who was featured heavily in the third game that is also heavily featured in this show. And you just go,
see, that one I gave a little bit of a pass because I could imagine that as a young Avalok, because Avalok even in the games was kind of a pansy. I don't know about the books.
Well, but the question is, he never openly defied anything. But the question is, could Geralt have actually taken Avalok? I don't know. Avalok is of a magical sort, not a. He won't pull out a sword and hit you, but for some reason he'll just like reverse gravity on you and you fall into the sky for 3 miles or something. That sort of power.
Well, that one I gave a pass because we've got 1,500 years of growth in between the two stories. So you could have that's.
I'm getting rid of my Ruana cloak. I look like I'm wearing a Mr. Rogers sweater, so I'm going to get this damn Ruana cloak off.
Nothing wrong with that. You want to be everyone's neighbor, and
yeah, exactly. But this show was interesting. They have this weird idea where they want to tell you how you should be feeling, with these characters, instead of giving you reasons to feel that way about these characters. They'll tell you should feel really like the Lark is this badass fighter or whatever who thought that her singing would make up for the atrocities she's done in her past. If you didn't watch more than 30 minutes, Heath, but that's the reason why she sings so much, is because she once locked an entire family in their house and burned them alive. And she hoped that by traveling around and spreading her song, that would make up for the sins of her past.
And yet she still seems pretty quick to get stabby.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my God.
Okay, so let me be the positive Nancy here. As individual characters go and casting and all of those things, that part wasn't the bad part.
Right.
If you want a badass chick, she actually, the actress herself, could actually have been a badass chick. She's very athletic. She had a commanding presence. And I'm actually going to not take away from the actors and actresses themselves. I think it's directing and writing.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, because she actually, if you just looked at her and, again, take away the delivery of the lines and stuff, okay, it's semi-believable. The guy who played the
Skull from Dog Clan or whatever.
Yeah, he was actually semi-manly for an elf, so you're like, okay, I can kind of believe that. And then, go from there. But the dialogue and the cuts were what made it. It almost seemed like every shot was done with nobody else in the room. So like her line.
All right, hold on, Sam. No, I have to interrupt because this was one of the things that turned me off so quick. There are different kinds of badass. Okay. This woman looks like she desperately needs a sandwich. And this guy looks like he could be playing linebacker in the NFL. And she goes toe to toe. Now, granted, it's briefly, but she squares up with him like she's going to take him when they're in prison.
Yeah, but he kicks her ass.
He kicks her off of him, and then they kind of have a standoff.
Because, well, but in that scene, he's doing the "I'm not going to hit a woman" thing,
which was amusing. That made me think, oh, this must be the bad guy because he's not going to hit a woman. But there are different types of badass, and what I was thinking, in the tavern scene when she's singing.
But again, that would be writing and directing. That wouldn't be the actor themselves.
So. No, yes, she moves well. I will give her that. That is something. That is
no, but she's got great shoulders, and she's a track athlete body, is what she is.
That is something that is very glaring to anyone who has done, even a modicum of some kind of martial art or sport. Is when you look at people doing action scenes and you can tell they are not used to doing athletic things. I mean, for crying out loud, Van Damme was a ballet dancer, but he, it translated because it meant he could do movements that made you think he was a fighter. The point was, all right, when she's flinging the knives, okay, she's got quick wrists and a keen eye, but then they felt the need to escalate it to have her go and start manhandling these guys that are literally twice her size. There are different kinds of badass. And what I was thinking in that scene was Eaters of the Dead, the 13th Warrior. He is Eben.
That was a good movie.
That is a good movie, yeah. And they did a pretty good job from what I remember of the book a million years ago. Did you read Eaters of the Dead?
I did. Michael Crichton, okay. Eaters of the Dead.
Yeah. As I recall, he was even more of a pansy in the book. Make me a scimitar so I can be cool was a movie thing. I don't recall him being much of a warrior at all. But he was.
You're talking about Ibn Fadlad?
In the book.
Okay.
Yeah. But so he had some action moments, whatever. It's an action movie, but his primary purpose in the movie was a thinker. That was his badassness. Is he just sat there around the campfire for days, weeks, and all of a sudden he can speak their language. These are the big buff Viking warriors, but he's the one who figures out, wait a minute, they live in caves. Wait a minute, it's this, it's that. That was his badassness. That's what he brought to the party. That's what she should have been. If she's this, if she's this bard, then she should be the thinker. She should be the one who sees the things that others see. But yes, those people can't do that. They are so caught up in perpetuating an idea that they have become the conservative Christian entertainers that they used to make fun of.
Okay, so this is why you should have watched more than 30 minutes of the series, because that first scene in the bar was the only scene that happened.
Then why the hell did they have that scene at the bar?
Because that's Hollywood, as it is now.
Geez.
But once they were paired up, they actually took their roles. It was the old school. I got the axe. I'm going to be the tough guy, and I've got the knives, and I'm going to throw them. And it kind of followed that mold from then on out.
But see, to me, that makes it worse. That's like the narrator giving away the whole story at the beginning. It's, why am I watching this? What is the point of this? You're supposed to introduce characters, and they are supposed to be a specific thing. Okay, when we introduce Matt at the very beginning of The Eye of the World, we know who he is. He's the lovable trickster. When we introduce Perrin, we know
from an abusive household.
Shut up.
Have you watched Wheel of Time yet, Chuck?
No.
No. Okay.
There's
Ah,
enough
man.
history of cancer in my family. I don't need to risk more.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Point taken.
Ow!
Well, it's also a question of, well, gee, I have the choice between Wheel of Time or the Rings of Power or the Hobbit, or not Hobbit, but the Willow on Disney, or Witcher.
That one I will not sit through. I will not sit through the Willow.
And you sit there and you go, I look at the previews for all of these things, they look exactly the same. They're this weird generic high fantasy BS written by people that have absolutely no idea how to tell stories, that I'm like, I don't need this in my life. I really don't. I don't see the urgency to sit back and say, hey, they're bringing Tom Bombadil into Rings of Power season 2. I can't wait to see it. No, I don't care. Give it, go away, die, let it end. But it's not going to. And I know that was a rumor that has come out or whatever, but I don't need the stories that they're telling aren't stories that need to be told, in my opinion. They are stories that are designed to reinforce their woke ideology. I do kind of disagree a little bit with Heath with the bard being a slight slender frame and not being able to take. It can be done, right? You can portray an elf. Lord of the Rings, for example, had Legolas skateboarding down the Helm's Deep. He was running up the collapsing bridge. You can portray characters in such a way as having superhuman agility, superhuman abilities that would let you go, oh, okay. But like when the introduction of the dwarf girl, she runs in with her hammer or whatever, and then you hear all this crunching and crashing, and then the guy goes flying out the window, and then she comes staggering out the window. It's like, you can't show that because she doesn't look like a fantasy dwarf.
It would turn
she
into
looks
a
like
comedy.
a human with dwarfism.
Which is funny because that scene ruined her, but at the same time, she was one of the better characters going after that scene.
Well, she was also. I thought she was kind of charismatic. I was like,
yeah.
Cool.
The actress did a great job.
Yeah, she did great. I'm a little bit frustrated at that though, because Witcher is one of the few. There's a mayor of a town in Witcher who is a dwarf human, a human with dwarfism, and it's like he's mistaken, or this character's, I don't remember if it's a he or she, but they're mistaken for a halfling a lot of times, because most humans don't really register the fact that dwarfism is actually something that can happen to humans, and it is a kind of a rare thing. But they're not a dwarf, they're a dwarf with a V at the end, they're a dwarf with an F, and that they're two entirely different things, which the Witcher book makes that completely serious and very, very specific, that this is not the same thing. And so this casting, this Burger King Kids Club, I like to call it, where you got to get the entire crew together of all ethnic origins and people and genders, and blah, 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 blah. You got to get that all together. One, that actually hurts some of the depth that you can go into. And two, it also makes it damn near impossible to actually have any sense of geographical awareness, of cultural awareness. When you look at the different places in, let's go to George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, the series that they made out of that, you can tell when you're in Dorne.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when you're over in Slaver's Bay, right? You can tell, when you're up near, not Lannis. I was going to say Lannisport, but they don't really ever show Lannisport. But you can tell when you're up near the Wall or something like that, or when you're in King's Landing. There are geographical and cultural and architectural and racial kind of defining characteristics of those.
That was another thing that jumped out at me right at the beginning was, so the brother and sister, they actually look like they could be related, and they have the same accent. That's great.
And you like those accents, the royal queen's the empress's accent, and It's just
So-
like,
So the king and his sister, they have the same accent, they have a similar look, so they look like they come from the same place. And then you go out into the city and it looks like modern day LA.
Mhm.
Why? You know, it
that is the only world that these writers know.
Yeah.
These writers are not going to go into the flyover states. These enlightened cultural leftist writers are not going to go to some effing third world country and actually see how people live. Oh no. And they're not going to do an ounce of research as to what it was actually like back in medieval period. Remember, this setting is supposedly people from the real earth having been transported into this fantasy realm, like a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court style.
I have another question, Chuck.
So these are actually supposed to be real cultural people in this realm, real human beings. It's not kind of Star Wars.
And the inspiration was
Well, technically
if
real
I'm-
elves, not
Yeah,
human
well,
beings.
I'm
but-
just I'm not even saying for this show. I'm just saying for the
No.
setting.
But yes, and the inspiration for that setting for a guy whose name I can't pronounce was classic Germanic, Slavic, and Norse folklore and mythology, right?
Specifically Slavic, yes.
So where is the Polish representation in this show?
Nowhere.
Okay, just checking.
right here,
I'm
right here,
Now-
critiquing
Alright.
it.
yeah, there you
Good
go.
job,
Sam,
Paula.
Sam is probably
were-
the
Were
our
were the elf
representation.
clans, was that an invention of
pure invention
the
of them.
show? Okay.
Netflix.
Yeah, it would have been very easy to make these people look similar. Like
The clans, the most they go into with culture are the NL, the Nshe, the various cultures. I mean, the difference between the NL and the Nshe, the Nshe came and settled this northern kingdoms area. The NL go off and settle a different realm. And it's like the difference between the British and the Americans, right? They're both elves, but they're two very different cultures. And every once in a while, the NL get a wild hair up their ass, portal back in and kidnap humans or whatever. I am a little bit frustrated at, and this seemed like such a minor nitpick when I first saw elves on this show. Elves in this world, they're supposed to have long pointy ears. They're also not supposed to have canine teeth. They're not supposed to have bicuspids. All of their teeth are supposed to be like your lower jaw teeth, even the ones on top. They're supposed to be completely symmetrical teeth. And it seems like a minor nitpick, but in the books, that is one of the Ciri ends up getting taken to the home world of the NL elves, where they try to breed her to their king. And she finds basically a pit of mass death. And she's looking at the skulls in there, and she sees that they have canine teeth. They have bicuspids. And she goes, this was a genocide where the elves wiped out humans, right? When they came to this world, that world, I love that world because it's basically elves versus unicorns. And when the conjunction of spheres took place, humans came into that realm too, and the elves looked at these guys and went, oh hell no, and they killed everybody, enslaved the ones that they didn't kill, use them for breeding, that sort of stuff. And it's like, show me some damn elf on unicorn combat, you know? This is stuff that we can do that would make it so much different from every other fantasy.
You could have like
series out
My Little
there.
Pony in there, and
Just
I
go watch
want to see
Legends.
Ciri riding her magic unicorn through time and space. Her magic unicorn is a hero wax, by the way. That's the name of her unicorn.
no,
But
I
yeah,
wanted to be the magic unicorn. She could ride me.
yeah.
Adult
wanted to
series,
see-
not kid series.
Yes.
Adult.
I wanted to
series.
see Tim Curry come out and oh no.
What are you
different.
doing there?
Yeah, what
By
the
the
hell
way.
is you got quiet all of a sudden? You're doing some dark side Phil action.
Yeah. Tim
Oh,
Curry as the
we're-
devil. Oh, that's good stuff.
We're getting tubined.
Sam, last time we did this was, I think,
Okay, hold on. I
episode
gotta
60.
pause. Hold on.
Now, I was going to ask Sam. Last time I was here, I think it was episode 60, and Sam said that he could see how they're trying to probably get to where the games are. That's the more popular, more well-known thing. Do you still try? Are you still thinking they're trying to like steamroll their way to those games, Sam? Or as you see more and more of this crap, are you starting to think that Maybe they're just kind of lost in the sauce.
This is we're both right because they're lost and they're going to ultimately say, damn it, let's just put in what we know from the games.
Well, as I recall, you said that because the kind of the tease at the end of season 2 was the Wild Hunt, right?
Mhm.
Which as you pointed out, is the primary antagonist of the third, and I believe most popular as far as sales go game. What was 3, and so they're teasing the Wild Hunt, so you would think that they're going to pull those storylines in, but
I still stand by it, but they added a step in between that I didn't foresee, where they have to bridge the gap between Eridan being exiled to his little planet and the Wild Hunt starting.
Remember, if they bulldoze directly to where the games are, that means they're going to have to skip over where Sari meets the rats and has her first lesbian experience. And knowing
I can't see them skipping that at all. Yeah,
exactly. Knowing Netflix, I don't think they're trying to get past that at all. I think they're trying to get to that where they can really
they'll just
start exploring,
like they did with Wheel of Time. They'll just insert it somewhere else.
That's true.
So. Well, I guess there's less insertion because it is a lesbian experience, but it's
right.
They'll just randomly put it in somewhere else. She'll fall in love with,
randomly put it in there.
It'll be
my head's in the wrong place for comments like that.
It'll be her and Triss or something instead of,
Oh, they'll introduce Mistle. They'll get her girlfriend in there.
That would be really creepy. But I could because of kind of who Triss was and her relationship in that second season, that would be so creepy that I could see them doing it.
Yeah, because you got to get the pedos in there too.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So, anyway, I just wanted to ask that because trying to see if Sam, if your viewpoint was still kind of similar to where it is or where it was when we did this like a year ago.
No, I actually still stand by that because this is modern. I would say filmmaking, but whatever this whole prequel thing, it actually doesn't matter.
Oh yeah,
it was just a stopgap. It was we don't have the other stuff ready and done yet, and we got to figure out how we're going to move on from Cavill and all of these other little logistical things. Let's do 4 episodes of something that happened before that we could just make up shit, and then we'll go on with the series, and it doesn't have to be congruent with what we just did.
It does matter in that
well, it matters to us. I'm saying it doesn't matter to them.
No. I think it matters to them because this is their method of storytelling. And I can't remember who I first heard point this out. Is the love and the obsession with prequels is that you get to retcon the original and do a self-insert fan fiction style. So it's the Doctor Who you thought you knew is no longer Doctor Who. No, it was originally a black girl. That was the first Doctor. The lore of the first and second age that you thought you knew. No, it was warrior Galadriel. Gil-galad is a simp. Nobody cares about him. That forget it. No, she came first. They even did it in Star Wars in a sequel. They made it a prequel by going back and retconning the Emperor's storyline, and by making Rey Skywalker Rey Palpatine. That no, it was she's really the most important. There is this obsession with deconstructing the traditional stories of modernity and making them fit for a modern audience, which means, a member of the Oppression Olympics was there first. They did it first. That's what matters. And so I think Blood Origin perfectly fits with their attempts to rewrite The Witcher as a Ciri and what's her face centric story.
And Ciri and Yen is who they've wanted to focus on this entire time, which the fans have basically been saying, we want to see Geralt killing monsters. And they're like, well, here's like a 15-minute segment of that. And it's like, okay, but we want like a season of that. We want, that's the entire, everything's revolved around Geralt, right? That's the focal character. That every once in a while you'll go off and see what Ciri's doing, see her with the rats, see her at Aretuza. But by and large, you follow Geralt's story. You don't follow Yen. You know, it's basically, in truth, it's mostly Geralt and Ciri's story. Yen is a supporting character to both of them.
And that's where the second season lost it for me, is I thought it started off strong. And I think we talked about this, is that in screen time, I understood the argument of Geralt is kind of being a backup character in his own story, but I thought that his actions were driving the plot until the end. And then it became Yennefer is the hero and saves everyone and gets her powers back because she's Yen. It made no sense. It was, well, she's the hero, so she needs to save the day and get her powers back. How? Why? How did we get here? What was the buildup? This is a payoff to something that was never set up. And I think Blood Origin fits perfectly with that.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, part of the problem that they're having is, this is a problem that Netflix tends to have a lot, is that they'll change things, and we talked a little bit earlier about how they change things. It's like they don't understand that even if you make a minor change, it can make a massive difference to the point of the story. As of right now, you were talking earlier, Heath, about you don't know why they're telling this. It's boring. Who cares? This is a cash grab. This is Netflix's attempt to expand The Witcher, much like the Vesemir anime, much like that. They're trying to expand it into their own fantasy thing that they can milk to all hell, and that's the only reason it exists.
Did you want? So what did you? I was going to ask about that. Is what did you think of the animated movie? I'm brain farting on the title.
Yeah, it's like something of the wolf, or I don't.
Yeah,
something.
That seemed way more Witcher to me than the series did, and it made me wonder, why did you do this?
The first 2/3 of that movie was actually pretty damn good. Yeah, it was actually pretty decent, and the things that they did change were forgivable. Then you get into kind of the last little bit of it, and you're just like, okay. At least that was my opinion of it. It's been well over a year since I bothered to watch that, so you know, you can tell exactly what I thought about it just by virtue of the fact that I'm blanking on its name.
Yeah.
I, a Witcher fan, am blanking on its name.
Well, yeah, so. And to the point I was making of, why didn't you follow that up? And to your point is, they seem like they're trying to make this their own, you know, their own universe that they have the rights to, they have the production to, and they can, you know, they can milk, they can get subscribers in the same way that HBO was able to get subscribers because of Game of Thrones and now House of the Dragon. Okay, then where's the content?
House of the Dragon.
Yep. House of the Dragon is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was clunky, but it was good.
House of the Dragon seemed like, you know,
it was Game of Thrones light, is what
Game of Thrones breached its peak in kind of the second, third, fourth season.
It was better than the end of Game of Thrones. How about that?
Oh God, yeah. But that's not saying much. Yeah. The only thing Game of Thrones had going for its final seasons were the production values. That was it. Their writers had all gotten brain cancer at that point, and they forgot.
The only thing I have a problem with is so many people were like, "Oh, well, what is it? Daenerys changed overnight." I'm like, no, I saw this coming from season 1. She was a tyrant the whole time. she was a tyrant in training the whole time, is what she
Right.
was. And everybody's like, oh, she just became this horrible person. I'm like, no, when she fried those dudes, yeah, they were slave owners. Yeah. So you weren't supposed to feel bad for them, but she just kind of fried some dudes by breaking a deal. That was season 2. She was the same person the whole
when
time
she
through.
acquired her first army, right? The
When she used the dragons to burn them to death and then just take them because instead of paying for them.
Yeah.
Speaking of production value, so this is something that is a problem for Netflix, and other people have gone deeper into it who know more about it. But basically, the production value can increase under the normal TV model because you have you can charge increasing advertised revenue, you get increasing sponsorships. HBO has other revenue streams because they're a subsidiary, blah 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 blah. Netflix has this problem though, because they don't get advertiser revenue. So this came out back when Bright came out. I don't know if either of you watched that. The Will
Smith
the Will
orc
Smith movie where he's an LAPD cop and his partner's an orc and elves exist and all that. Yeah. So one of the big points about it was how it was something like a $90 million movie. But it doesn't look like a $90 million movie. And the reason for that is because in order for Netflix to control their revenue, they decided what they needed to do is keep all their costs in-house. So the reason they overpay for things is because they don't give any back end, giggity. Because there is no back end. They don't put out DVDs. They don't, they don't nothing gets syndicated was another big place where revenue comes in. So you can pay your actors and directors more. You can give them executive producer stuff like happens in something like Friends that goes on forever and gets really big. Netflix can't do that, so they have to overpay. But Bright still looked good. It just didn't look like a $90 million movie. It looked more like a $50-60 million movie, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's what, that's kind of what Serenity was, the Firefly movie. It was like a, $40-50 million movie, which is pretty cheap for a sci-fi movie. Still looked good. Didn't look cheap. This was one of my big problems in this 30 minutes that made me go, why am I watching this? Because I could have at least been watching something pretty, and I wasn't. It looked cheap.
Well, that was the problem with Rings of Power too.
There are episodes of Hercules: The Legendary Journeys that looked better.
So
episodes of Xena. Go back and watch episodes of some of those actually look really. It's like, oh damn, they put a lot into this. And then all of a sudden you're like, why don't modern day shows?
I have some examples here. And I are smart. Grandpa finally figured it out. So this is, from the trailer off of YouTube here.
Right. King's Landing, right? Ba-dum-bum.
Huh? What? No, but
Zentreya, right? That's this realm.
Yeah, this is one of the first, big shots that you see, and
it looks like out of a PS2 video game.
I'm getting there. I have literally seen better cutscenes from a PS2. But before we get there, here is Minas Tirith from a 20-year-old movie. Why? Because they took the time to. This is probably a model, is what I'm gonna guess.
It's like a 30-foot tall model of a city. It's a huge.
They took the time to craft it and make it look good, make it look lived in, and make it look like part of the New Zealand mountain range that they filmed for the background. That looks real, or it certainly looks a lot realer than this, whatever the hell that is, and that's a 20-year-old movie, which granted, movie, bigger budget, but you should still have a budget, Netflix. You're trying to make this your thing. You're trying to make this one of the things that pushes people to you. So why does it look like crap?
And Netflix keeps going. Oh, you're going to do some more. Hold on.
This is Final Fantasy X. This came out in 2010?
Yep. No, it came out in 2000. I was playing this in Korea. So
This came out
2001,
2000?
2001, 2002. There's like
Yeah,
a
you got to
20-year-old
play some
game.
blitzball, man.
I love Blitzball. I liked it more than the game.
I wish that they had a multiplayer version of Blitzball. That would have been cool.
I would have played the heck out of that instead of releasing X2, release a Blitzball. So this is a freaking PS2 game, and it looks better. It looks like more care and work was put into it than
It's
what
choppy
net-
as hell on my screen.
Well,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because I
That's
told
bad.
Heath he's got to send me the links to the things he wants me
Oh,
to share
son
when
of-
it comes to video because it's on everything kind of goes through my system before it
Yeah,
goes out.
I
so-
wasn't
right.
thinking about that. Well, fine. Here, I'm
Yeah.
gonna send this to you. That because Chuck said something that made my brain explode and blood came out my nose a little bit. So now he can share it with you.
Okay. This was supposed to be 6 episodes, not 4.
Oh,
They cut it down to 4.
yep, let me-
Why? It's
Uh-huh.
it's like I don't know why. It seems like if they had made it 6, but then again, they don't know how to write. So I keep saying if they had made it 6, they would have been able to take. Are you having a conniption over there, Sam? What's
hold on. No, I haven't
Oh,
advertised.
your camera did it again.
oh, your
Okay.
camera did it again.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
a new
not.
camera
So it's not the
too, so
camera
it's-
because it's a brand new camera.
Right. It's whatever your encoder is, or whatever
Okay.
you're putting it through. But no, this was supposed to originally be 6 episodes, and it's just like for some reason they decided to make it 4. There it is. He's back.
and you get a little cheese with the effects there in the transformation, but they're doing some kind of they're doing some major special effects there, and
Hopefully, I'll come back
works.
here.
yeah, hopefully it works.
Oh,
even
there
though
it
there's
is.
a little bit
You know
of-
what? I think it's something with running Zoom and Chrome at the same time. Because we were fine up until that moment, and I tried to run through Chrome, the YouTube, and when I was having trouble with my other thing, I was running Chrome for my tabs. So I think it's something with Zoom and Chrome on my computer.
Well, Zoom sucks,
Oh,
and Chrome sucks.
We'll have to find another way
I-
to stream, but
I keep changing browsers, and then it starts sucking, and then I do something else that starts sucking, and then I do something else that starts sucking.
Technology is here to make our lives easier.
yes, this is why I do
you-
not trust self-driving cars yet.
You were correct, Chuck. There was a theatrical release, but it was
I think it bombed, right?
it bombed, and it kind of became a cult classic on TV.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
Because
you are
TBS got the rights for it for real dirt cheap, started showing it over and over again, kind of like Shawshank Redemption now, where anytime you turn on TBS, it's like on,
Mhm.
So-
So it had a budget of 20 million.
Yep.
So middle 1985 budget of 20 million, and it's a fantasy, so same genre, and it had better production value.
it,
Then the
it,
hot
requ-
garbage
it
I
would
watched.
require actually hiring good directors, good cinematographers, good lighting people. That's a big thing that is vastly overlooked.
Oh,
with a
lighting people are
lot.
amazing.
You
So
get
I've been
yourself-
to I haven't been to a movie shoot or anything, but I've been to photo shoots for bikinis and things like that. And the lighting people are amazing. I've seen like a girl and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then the lighting guy goes "Pff," with his little thing, and I'm like, who's that? She's hot. And then he takes it away, and I'm like, oh, that's that girl. It changes them. Everything.
things drastically.
Yeah.
I've always thought Heath needs like one more light on the side of his face.
No,
Oh.
let's keep myself in the shadow as much as possible. It's better off that way.
Sam's looking directly into one.
right here.
Well, you got one of those ring lights or camera lights or something?
Yeah, it's on the new camera. It actually has a background ring light. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can change it. See, now we got
Yeah, I feel
warm
bad. I've
lights.
only got my one light on and then the house lights on. Back in my old streaming setup, I had the 3 light system, and I could increase or decrease the
Do I feel warmer to you now?
yes, you actually do.
I do.
because you were coming in quite harsh, blue. What else are we talking about here? Because we've been kind of rambling now.
Well, I kind of, I don't know what Heath wants to do, but I wanted to take
Well,
this
I got one more thing on the production value that really pisses me off, because to Chuck's point about
Bring it.
cinematography and stuff is, okay, so just that opening sequence there. So you've got, I don't know, maybe Wales, Ireland. There's
Plane of some
yeah,
sort.
there are some places around there with some ridiculous tidal flows. So I don't know if it's there or
Might be
what. But
Iceland. I
yeah,
think it's Iceland, right?
Iceland maybe. Okay,
yeah.
so
where
you've
the
got
average distance between married couples is third cousins, by the way.
You say that like a bad thing, dude. What's wrong?
It's
Okay.
actually supposedly optimal for proper gene
All right,
transfer.
but so you've got these great background shots, and you've got some good cinematography when it comes to this stuff, right?
Landscape shots. Yeah.
These landscape shots in this opening are great. Okay, but then where is it? Then you get to the actual town, and it's like there's nothing there.
Mhm.
Where's the cinematographer? Where's the director of cinematography to go? Guys, this doesn't. This is jarring. This
Yeah,
doesn't
their
work.
little village of 6 buildings there. And it's
Yeah,
like,
come on. You couldn't have put a little more time in craft. I mean, for crying out loud, the end of Blazing Saddles put more work into their town.
didn't this little village we're looking at here, didn't this have a brothel in it?
Yep.
It had a brothel.
Yeah.
It had a tavern. It had town guards who were.
I love the bank. You didn't catch that one, Heath, but there was an episode where there was a bank in it, and it was just this gigantic fortress of solitude type bank that's in this
A bunch of
little
drawers and one
podunk-
person in the middle.
Yeah, it's like what in a little podunk village like that, and there's just one guy sitting in there. It's like where the
Maybe it was supposed to be an homage to Maverick. I don't know.
we approach from the trees. You know, it's like what? There's 6 buildings.
Okay,
But
I think we beat that dead horse to death. It's
Anywho, so what were you about to say there, Sam?
Oh, I was gonna say we could two things we could talk about to go out of this and kind of close it out. A show we like that has come out recently, and then what possible futures for fantasy genre we could go into.
Well, can we think
Because
of anything
they've
good about
ruined
this? Can we think of any good things about this show?
No, I think the casting wasn't bad. I think just the directing and the cuts were where it was.
Well,
like I said, when the conversations between the main girl and the main guy, they never showed them just talking to each other. They would show them in a scene, and then they would show one of their faces and he would say a line, and then they would show the other face and she would say a line, and it just sounded like lines. It didn't sound like a conversation.
I like the fact that the main actress was both stunning and brave. It's just, it seems to be the strong female character for you right there.
Yeah, but in this show, though, I would say, and this again, you didn't get if you watched only 30 minutes, he put her in her place a lot in the middle episodes, and it was actually a decent dynamic. It was just clunkily done. It sounded like they weren't in the same room doing the lines together.
But I mean, none of it really made sense when you sit back and think about it. Where the Empress, they're running out of food, so they're gonna like invade other places with 8 soldiers, and
or
I mean,
just
the very ending
looking
where,
at the landscapes, growing some more food. Everything was fertile.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it looked lush as hell.
Yeah, it was lush as hell. You know,
why not just steal some of the scenes from the end of season 2? Because that planet sure looked like it was scorched. Nothing growing there. You could have just stole some seeds from there if you're trying to make it, we're doomed.
No, there was one scene with the little supposed to be dwarf girl, and then the guy you never remember his name because he just kind of came out of nowhere and became part of the party.
Right, the other white dude, right?
The other white dude with the cleavers.
We can just call him the other white dude.
The other white dude.
We know
and the
who we're
dwarven
talking
girl,
about now.
But they're talking and getting to know each other, and it was a real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That scene was the best scene of the whole freaking series.
That's a very good point. Is every once in a while these little glimmers of hope show through.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is when it's the Mary Sue phenomenon, where you have characters in there, and I'm not talking about, they don't necessarily have to be a Mary Sue, but they show the trait of the characters around them don't act like regular people, right? That the Empress, for example, her brother, the king or whatever, is going to create this peace conference and bring peace to the land and marry her off, and we'll finally have peace. So she kills everybody and takes over so that they will finally have peace. I'm like, what? You were about to have peace. It's just that you weren't going to get peace the way you wanted to. And the problem is the show did not necessarily emphasize that's a bad thing. She did a bad thing. In fact, by the very end, 4th episode, when the Lark is confronting her, she's saying, "You didn't go far enough." It's like, what? No, you can't portray this. I mean, granted, they've gotten completely into by that episode, they've gotten completely into the Marxist uprising of the people, sort of point of the show.
The people singing the.
Oh. Right. Well, they go to the food. You didn't see this, Heath, but they go to this, the food bin where they're storing the food away from the people. And
by the way, everybody in the audience, spoiler alerts for the show you probably aren't going to watch anyways.
The Lark is like trying to rally the people, say this is what they're holding this back from you, and you should take what's yours. They burst open the doors.
They build the barricades and raise the red flags, and
they kick open the granary, and it's nothing there. And at that point, some guy in the back's going, "It's empty," and at that point, that's like the mob would chunk a brick at Lark, right? That's the rational thing that the crowd would do.
That's the rationality of mob mentality.
You promised us our food. It's empty. They would get angry at the rabble rouser for riling them up and promising them something. And someone would bounce a gourd off her head or something. And it's like that would be realistic. Instead, they just continue on and completely defeat the armored.
She gives soldiers a rallying speech of.
Yeah, it's just okay. So you're going to confront the soldiers. This is a city that, according to you, has never fallen in 1,000 years. Granted, we only ever see 6 soldiers, but somehow it's never been defeated ever. And the peasants, the revolting peasants with their pitchforks and hoes, are somehow going to overthrow the battle-hardened soldiers who have been fighting for 1,000 years. Because remember, these are elves. If they are veterans, they are hundreds of years old, having an absolute mass of experience under their belt. And some goofy-ass peasant comes at you with a rake, and you're wearing full-scale armor, you're going to cave their skull in without any effort whatsoever. And nope, the peasants revolted and succeeded, and somehow that is the song that Minnie Driver wanted Yaskir, aka Dandelion, to pass along to the next generation or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do the creators of this series not know how season 2 of The Witcher ended?
They probably didn't watch it either.
Okay. Because the elves didn't exactly end on a high note there. So
they didn't end on a high note in this one either.
But so the whole okay, the whole like Minnie Driver narrator thing about A Song of Hope and all that is okay, but that's the elves from the first season who have been subjugated and shat upon for centuries, and the elves of season 2 ended with mass infanticide.
They were killing all the human babies and stuff.
Are we not going to address that? And And this is, so anyone who hasn't watched it, I've referenced it before. Go watch The Critical Drinkers, Why Modern Movies Suck. They're written by children. They are written by people with the mentality of a child, expecting that their audience is the same way. Someone did something bad to me, so I'm allowed to murder dozens, if not hundreds, of children.
Well, it's Haiti all over again.
Well, that's why I talk about, this Mary Sue mentality of they can behave a certain way, and the characters in the universe that should be acting a certain going, oh my God, that's horrible. No, they're written to somehow accept it and think that that's a heroic virtue. And it's like, hey, the concept of heroic virtues have been around for like 3,000 years. It's very well known what makes a person a hero, what makes a person a villain. The altruistic drive is heroic, the selfish drive is villainous. But these writers don't know what they're doing.
Well, I feel like it might be even worse than that, because as I think back to that second season, the weenie dude elf, he's kind of the conscience. He's kind of the contrary voice of, we shouldn't be doing this, is going too far. Are you sure this is right? And he's portrayed to be wrong. So it's not just that there's no consequence to this. It's, oh no, this is virtuous. This is right. That's evil.
It is. And that's the problem that they're facing, is that they don't know the difference between good and evil. They don't know heroic, traditional, classic heroic virtue. They are so obsessed with, altering, subverting expectation. And, have I ever talked to you guys about mastering the rice before?
What?
Okay. It's an old concept in sushi making. That the apprentice would sign on underneath the sushi maker, and the sushi maker would not let them do it. The apprentice's job would be to do the rice. You have to learn how to clean the rice, treat the rice, blah, 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 wash the rice, cook the rice. You have to get this perfect 100 times out of 100 times. It has to just be second nature before the sushi master will ever allow that apprentice anywhere close to any other ingredient, because naturally the apprentice is like, well, I could do so much better if you would just give me the salmon. I could make something real. No, you have to master the basics first, right? Coffee's for closers. That's another good thing in Glengarry Glen Ross, where the salespeople were like, we want the good contacts, and they're like, no, you would waste the good contacts. Yes, you personally would do better, but overall, the product that you released would be worse. And this concept of you have to master the rice goes right along with that you have to get this just 100% right.
Sounds like me lecturing Heath on training. Quit overthinking it and let's get the basics down.
And then you slowly increase from there. And then you slowly work on that. And you have so many people in the industry now, they never learned how to master the rice. They see Quentin Tarantino come out and hit the scene big back in the 90s by doing some sort of weird introduction and showing scenes out of orders in his movies and doing all this artsy fartsy stuff. And everyone thinks that they can emulate that. It's like, you haven't learned how to tell the basic story yet. Once you've proven that you can tell a basic story, then you can start complicating things and making it more and more difficult and more complex. But hey, Witcher season 1 was a perfect example. They're trying to make it more in depth by making these branching, diverting timelines that slowly coalesce and come together. It's like, you didn't actually make your series better because of that. Especially because you've dropped the ball on so many, you changed the meaning of so many of these episodes in both the season 2 and season 1. It's something that I get entirely frustrated with, is this idea that, okay, they're only making small changes, right? Yeah, but what happens when you make a small change and it fundamentally alters the meaning of the story, the point of the story? Did I talk to you guys about the Boy Who Cried Wolf? Okay, good. So we're all going to be Netflix executives. We're smart. Yeah, we're like the Packlids on Star Trek Next Generation. We're smart. We get to go. Jordy's going to make us go. We're smart. So we're all Netflix executives, and we're going to adapt The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Right. So we have the boys, he's a shepherd boy. He's out there watching.
Now,
the
first
flock.
thing we have to do is make it a girl.
Sure. We'll make it a girl. But bottom line is,
no, but we can't do that because a girl would never lie.
Wolf, wolf, wolf.
Problematic.
We're gonna stay faithful. We're only gonna make some basic changes. Like we're only gonna make one change, right? And that's only to make it more cinematic. That's it. We're gonna make one change just to make it more cinematic. And so shepherd boy cries wolf, wolf, wolf. Town comes out, pitchforks and axes and torches and stuff. And the little boy's laughing his ass off because of course there are no wolves. Next day, cries wolf, wolf, wolf. Out comes the villagers, no wolves. Third day, a pack of wolves arrive and he cries wolf, wolf, wolf. And here's the change we're going to make because we need a good cinematic ending. We're going to have a massive battle between the townsfolk and the wolves where they save the sheep and, save the day and everything. And it's going to be this epic fight scene in the night where you have burning wolves and people chunking axes and stuff like that. And it's going to be great. And that's the only change we're going to make. And the problem with that is you've now completely changed the point of the story.
Were you sitting in on the pitch meeting to WandaVision?
No, I wasn't. But
because that's what that freaking show was. That show was good for about 2/3, 3/4.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you got to the end and it's like, wait, hold on. The whole town is coming out to fight the wolf. You've just ruined the entire point you were building up to.
Yep. Now let's look at this in terms of Witcher. The very first episode of the very first season, the Witcher encounters a character named Renfrey. Renfrey wants to kill the wizard, right? The wizard wants Geralt to kill Renfrey. And Geralt says, screw it, I'm staying out of it. If I have to choose between a lesser evil or a greater evil, I choose not to make any choice at all. And so Renfrey has her gang arranged in the marketplace. And in the books, Geralt realizes what they're going to do. So Renfrey goes to confront the wizard and tell the wizard, hey, we're going to start killing citizens here unless you come down and deal with me face to face. Meanwhile, her men are in the market and Geralt does a preemptive action where he just goes through Blaviken, slaughtering all of her men, terrifying the hell out of all the villagers because they don't know anything that's going on. That's how he got the moniker, the Butcher of Blaviken, is that he just, from the villagers' perspective, he's just slaughtering people preemptively. Eventually, Renfrey comes back, sees all her men are dead. She's just crestfallen and confronts Geralt and says, yeah, I talked to the wizard. He said I could kill everybody in this town. He doesn't give a shit. And that I could go to the next town over and kill all them. He doesn't give a shit. And I could kill everybody in the area. He doesn't care. And she had nothing to live for at that point. Geralt ends up killing her. And there's this kick in the gut in the book where Geralt realizes if he had just stayed out of it, she would have come to that realization. And as he had told her earlier in the story, why don't you just move away and start a new life for yourself? That if he had just stayed the hell out of it, she would have moved on. But instead, because he got involved, because he did make a choice of a greater or lesser evil, it ended up causing him a bunch of pain because now he's got this name that follows him around, the Butcher of Blaviken. He ended up killing her because she'd lost all freaking hope for her life. And basically everybody was just worse off because he took a stand. And that's one of the great kind of nuances of these books, is that Geralt's a hypocrite. He genuinely wants to not get involved. He wants to not care, but he feels compelled to. And every damn time he gets involved, it kicks him in the ass. He ends up with a damn pitchfork in his liver, when he's trying to protect the pogrom of dwarves. But they changed that in the very first episode of the Netflix series.
This is what is so infuriating, though, because I hadn't heard that. You didn't bring that up when we talked about it last time. And so I had no clue what you're talking about there compared to what they did in that first episode. You're talking like 90 seconds more of screen time to
Mhm.
put that in there.
Yep.
To flesh that out to what it was in the book, and how much more impactful would that have been?
Yep.
Why the
And
hell didn't they spend 90 more freaking seconds
because
to do
they
that?
decided to change. They were also covering what was going on with Yennefer, or well, I don't know. They had not introduced Yennefer yet, but they had introduced Ciri, and they were covering what was going on with Ciri. So they were showing a lot of what was going on with Ciri. But that's my point, is they made a couple little changes to the overall story of what happened in Blaviken that completely changed the point of the story that they originally had. And unless they've got a damn good reason for changing the moral of the story, that's where you lose people.
No, well, just parallel this to like COVID response and other things. No, this is the thing about the Hollywood elites. They're like the elites everywhere. They thought we were too stupid to get that.
Well, they are the smartest people in the room.
Yeah, and so they were like, well, we're going to make a
them.
simple version. This is the version where we tell you everything, and you go home happy because there's a fun fight scene where he cuts a guy's head in half.
Yeah, like the battle sequence of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. You've changed the ending just a little bit, to make it more exciting for people, and you just ruin the whole point. So
I recently learned something similar, but more upsetting, because it's in a story that actually matters because it's about real people and done by people who otherwise should have known better. Okay, so the best episodes of Band of Brothers were the 2 episodes in Bestoing, right?
Yeah.
Those were incredible. Lieutenant Dyke was
shot,
massacred reputationally
yeah,
in that series. I had no clue until I recently watched the Operations Room. Check that out. If you don't know that channel, check out the Operations Room.
Okay.
They did a long series on the Battle of the Bulge, and they ended it with the attack on Foy.
But yeah, Norman Dyke had been shot twice.
He had 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star.
Yep.
Okay, now what is true, and this is where the nuance comes in and where it's a more interesting story and more interesting history, is that despite that, because he was the new guy and the butter bar, he could not win the respect of the men of the 101st because of what they went through. It parallels what's his face, who comes back later, and even though he had been in D-Day and Market Garden, he wasn't in Bastogne because he was injured, and now all of a sudden he could not integrate back into
Weber,
the unit.
right? You're
Weber,
talking about
yes.
Weber?
Yeah. So he comes back in the last couple of episodes. It's a much more nuanced, much more interesting story, but in order to make it a more simple story of the platoon sergeant versus the incompetent platoon leader, they just ignored all of that.
They made a couple mistakes. I don't know if that was a true mistake that was made, or if it was something that was consciously ignored. It was, of course, based on, was it McCullough that wrote the book?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've never read the book. If McCullough made that mistake or chose to ignore it, them simply adapting it into the miniseries is an honest mistake. Kind of like what ended up happening with what's his name that had the hysterical blindness.
Yes. Yeah. I found that one interesting. I can't remember who I learned that from, but he was actually alive. But
he watched the episode, for crying out loud.
To McCullough's credit, everyone who he talked to thought he had died.
Right. Well, the thing is that, with Norman Dyke on the assault on Foy, he had been hit twice on that assault. So him slumped up against that hay bale, panting and not really thinking right. You cut him a little bit of slack, and I've always wanted to see kind of a 25th anniversary remaster of Band of Brothers. All you'd have to do, especially that episode, because it was narrated by Wahlberg. It was, and you can just get Donnie Wahlberg to come back in here and narrate a couple extra lines. Say, what we didn't know then was he had actually been hit twice, but basically was wrapping up at the church sequence.
Mm-hmm.
You could just have him add a couple extra lines there saying what no one knew is that he had, underneath all of his winter clothing, he'd actually gotten struck twice, which is why he was having such a hard time breathing and concentrating at the time. We didn't know that, but we know that now, and some of us feel kind of bad. That's all they'd have to do is add a single line, and it'd be fine. With what is his name? They had the hysterical blindness.
I cannot remember.
Pyle.
I don't remember. It's been too long since I watched
bottom
it.
line is there were a couple of issues with Band of Brothers. Honestly, I don't crap on it. You say that they should have known better. I give them a lot of slack simply because they did a damn good. When you nail a 99.7, it's awfully hard to bitch about the 0.3 you got wrong. So.
Sorry, I would have called an intermission for bathroom break, but I had nothing to contribute to that part of the
conversation. Honestly, that was that was a little side quest on our fantasy adventure.
No. So we kind of beat the original purpose of this podcast to death.
Oh, most definitely.
The two things I wanted to kind of maybe close out with was anything we've seen positive from modern television, and Hollywood has killed The Witcher. They've killed somewhat Game of Thrones. They've killed Wheel of Time. They've killed Tolkien. Is there anything going forward where there may be redemption?
Well, we brought it up earlier, and the only existing IP that's being adapted that I can think of, because of who's involved, I suspect that Zaslav, because he likes Cavill and he wanted to keep him, but he couldn't. I suspect Cavill's Warhammer is going to end up on HBO. And if it does, I have a lot of optimism for it. And I don't even like the Warhammer universe. I don't remember if Chuck, I don't remember if it was you or if it was somebody else, but I tried playing one of the Warhammer 40K RTS games a while back. And I said, I told somebody, some friend, I said, I'm playing this, and they said, how do you like it? And I was like, well, it's good so far, but when do I get to play the good guys? And this person laughed at me.
There is no good guys in the 40K universe.
Which is funny because I always liked the Chaos Marines of Slaanesh.
That's right.
Yeah. And something came up and I just mentioned that. And my son was in the room and he goes, "Oh, Slaanesh is the bad guy." Yeah, I liked him.
Chuck liked Tzeentch.
Yeah.
In fantasy, in fact, my fantasy armies were Tzeentch demons and the Tzeentch demons. Specifically.
Well, you've got all my old stuff, right?
And
I sold it to
somebody's got it. I have at least the Defiler that I had kind of made for you there.
Oh yeah.
I know I got that. I think you sold it to Austin.
But Cavill's it's a 40K, right? Or is it a 40?
It's 40K specifically.
Okay, so it's not.
But
Warhammer
that
Fantasy.
can easily spin off into fantasy. Basically, once the IP is set, you can take that in any direction. I would love to see some Sigmar action.
Of any of the existing, things that I know are being worked on, that's the only one I have even the remotest optimism for because of who's involved.
The one I have isn't being worked on, and I hope it actually takes a break to kind of cleanse our palate of all the crap that's come out from the fantasy universe. But there's literature background and then video game background to pull from. I'm optimistic about Dragon Age.
Okay, I can see that.
Dragon Age has a great story, a great world, and I think it could be adapted to the screen very easily.
Similar to that, I don't know who has the rights to it right now, but Jennifer Salke is an idiot and should be fired.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
Because
she's actually kind of hot, though.
No, be quiet, you. Stop it. Stop talking.
No, we're talking about the Witcher showrunner, right?
No.
No. Okay, so I got the wrong person. No, the Witcher showrunner is
Hesrich, I think is her name.
Yeah. She's
Salke is the head of Prime Video. Okay. So she's the one in charge of greenlighting all this hot garbage. And when she came in, there was a Conan series in pre-production that she told them needed to be changed because it was too toxically masculine. And they said no.
Oh gosh, a
Mhm.
show about barbarians being toxically masculine.
However, and this is what
Guess-
I was going to bring up. I
Guess
think
where the
Keith is
guess
going.
where the showrunner for that Conan series went, Sam. I think I've told you this before. I don't think you remember. House of the Dragon. So with House of the Dragon's success, if the Conan rights are available, I could see HBO grabbing those and saying, "Hey, do your Conan series." And if that happened, I might actually feel compelled to get HBO Max finally.
Oh, you just got to wait long enough that your email address gets you the free trial.
I could do that too.
Okay, I thought you were going to go in a different direction there. You mentioned Conan. I'm kind of tentatively looking forward to Red Sonja.
I forgot all about that because it hasn't been in pre-production hell for like 10 years.
It has been confirmed. In fact, I think it came out today. The showrunner, whoever, said no gender politics, and yes, there will be a chainmail bikini.
Is it still the woman who did
It's not
So it's
Brigitte
Renfest.
Nielsen.
It's Renfest all over again.
I just brain farted. The woman who directed Solomon Kane.
I don't know. I don't remember,
Because
but
I thought that was a really underrated movie that was done very well, and for a while she was attached to it, and that made me optimistic.
Bottom line is, if you tell me that Red Sonja is coming out, no gender politics, and they're keeping chainmail bikini, I'm sitting here going, that's a step in the right direction.
Bring me my popcorn and my ranch dressing hose.
It's technically
yes.
a scale mail bikini, but bottom line is,
Whatever.
Everyone calls it a chainmail bikini. As for stuff that I've seen this year that I've liked, I can't think of many TV shows that have come out this year. The one show that I actually, this year being 2022, this last year, I think the one that I liked the most and the biggest surprise was Top Gun Maverick, which was better than it had any right to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that it was as good as it was. But in terms of TV series, yeah, well, part of it is I don't have Netflix, so I have to.
If I didn't have a wife who watched a lot of Korean and Chinese stuff, I wouldn't have Netflix either. But their foreign distribution is, I think, one of the things that's keeping them afloat right now.
Well, it definitely is, because their subscriber base here in the United States is shrinking, but their overall reach.
Sorry,
is
something
getting...
you said just a minute ago made me think of that.
Oh, geez, the Red Sonja stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental health break. Okay.
I made that meme, by the way.
As long as it doesn't come out in November.
That's original.
Anything that's going to come out, bad segue. It's going to have to be from some place either outside of the traditional Hollywood production machine, or someone like Tom Cruise, who has so much FU money and FU power that he can get the movie made that he wants to get made.
Are you guys interested in Megalopolis at all?
I don't know that I've.
That is Francis Ford Coppola making like a $200 million movie out of his own money.
Whoa.
He's basically doing like the largest independent movie ever seen. And it's like, okay, you got Francis Ford Coppola producing and directing. Yeah, and he's doing it specifically to say no to the Hollywood system that's out there right now. I'm intrigued. I am piqued,
and that's my point, because the Hollywood system, and this goes back to something you kind of touched on earlier, was that these people don't know how to do the basics. And one of the big reasons for that is because the stereotypical Hollywood model of, you know, the person with a suitcase and a dream gets off the bus from Ohio and, you know, goes to make it big. That doesn't exist anymore. It is astounding how many people in Hollywood who are either, you know, actors or directors or writers come from nepotism.
Almost
And
definitely.
not always, like you just brought up Coppola, his daughter, did some work. She never hit it big, but to his credit, he never really propped her up. She
Right.
had to rise her, she had to sink or swim on her own.
Lost in Translation was one of hers, right? That was Bill
Yeah.
Murray and Scarlett Johansson.
That was one of her, more critically acclaimed
Right.
ones that she did. So she had to sink or swim on her own, but a lot of these people aren't, coming from the talent tree. They're children of executives.
Is it that they, here's my big question. Is it that they don't understand the talent tree, or that they fundamentally disagree with the talent tree? As postmodernists, they look at a
Meritocracy
story.
is a sham anyways,
Right. They look at a story, and their judgment of whether or not it's a good story is whether or not it has representation, whether or not it has diversity.
Well,
That's how they don't define a good story by whether or not the character's motivations make sense and lead to an effective cause and effect relationship that trickles down through the length of the story. That's not how they judge a good story. They judge whether it checks the boxes.
That's a good point, because it's not an either or, it's an and. It's, you have people who have not had to work their way up and clean the rice. They have not had to do that, and they have been raised up in an educational and professional system that is wholly enclosed in this postmodernist bubble. So not only are they not good technically, but they have terrible ideas for what makes a story.
And that segues into the show that I enjoyed recently, because it checks every box and then makes fun of it at the same time. The Boys. That I enjoyed all 3 seasons. I can see why Heath's sources would not like the second season, but that's because they were looking at it at a shallow level, because the whole Nazi thing. And
some of them were because they had read the comics, and so they didn't like the series.
Oh, no. It was taking everything that was in the political, social realm and putting it on its head as a caricature the whole time.
There are a couple that I have not seen that are on my to watch list at some point when I just get some time off. The Terminal List, Reacher, stuff like that I've not actually seen, but I'm intrigued by, and I would like to check them out. So I don't necessarily watch a ton of TV shows.
I don't either. And someone had talked about it, and I was like, oh, well, it sounded silly, so I'll watch an episode. And then I ended up binging all 3 seasons, because I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Sucked in like a triple cunted hooker.
Yeah, that would fit with the show too.
Right.
But you could see the political parallels, where normally in like modern Hollywood, it would be this stupid message that you're supposed to get. But here it was like, I see the parallel, but then they're kind of just making fun of it the whole time.
Yeah, they did slip some stuff in, but it was, I watched the first season. It was okay, cool. If I get around second and third season, I'll go ahead and check that out. But
well, Heath was like, oh, everybody had trouble with the second season from a standpoint. Well, that was because they did the whole, well, obviously Homelander is a Trump parallel, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's freaking obvious. But so then they did the Nazi thing, which was his girlfriend that came in, and she was like the whole Nazi thing. But then they threw it on its head when he was like, she's telling him everything that she was trying to accomplish. And he's like, oh, no, that's not what I was trying to do. It's not about white people. It's about me. And then you just like die laughing, because you're like, oh, well, yeah, you could get this impression that it was this whole Trump's a Nazi thing, or you could say, no, this guy's just a narcissistic bastard that wants to kill people and be famous and wants people to love him.
I tell you so I canceled a bunch of stuff recently, so I finally signed up for Discovery Plus, which I've been wanting to do for a while, because I'm really so disillusioned with modern fiction storytelling. There's just nothing I'm looking forward to. So I'm, sitting with my wife or my daughter to watch Mythbusters and Dirty Jobs and Shark Week, and that's, I get more entertainment out of that. And then, fiction wise, I get most of my fiction buzz from our
From
Wheel of
watching
Time
CNN.
rereads. Oh, that too. Or C-SPAN, either one. So our Wheel of Time rereads is my primary source of fiction. One of the ones that really surprised the heck out of me recently, and it pissed me off that it didn't get a second season, but it at least exposed me to the work, and so maybe I'll go looking for some of the graphic novels. Chuck, have you read any Jupiter's Legacy?
No.
It's Millar, I believe, is who did it.
Yeah, Mark Millar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I heard him talking, Drinker interviewed him.
That's right. He did that. He did
Yeah,
a
little while ago.
form interview.
And so I got a little more information on it. It is, my cynical self can see how Netflix clearly isn't going to want to continue to do that, but is all in on Witcher Blood Origins, because the first 5 minutes of Jupiter's Legacy, if you find a way to watch it without a Netflix subscription, the first 5 minutes of that was the best Superman movie I've seen since the first Christopher Reeve movie.
Interesting.
It is, the main character is Superman done right. And I have not seen him done right in a long time. And I didn't realize when I was first watching it that it was Millar, because Millar next to Jeff Loeb is, in my mind, those are the two greatest comic book writers since the classics, since Kirby and Claremont. Okay, so to me, those are my Mount Rushmore of writers, is Kirby, Claremont, Loeb, and Millar. And so it didn't surprise me when I learned that. And
so Morrison and Bendis don't make the list. Moore doesn't make the list.
Moore's a bit of a
sorry, we're
weirdo,
going
but
off on a tangent now, because I'll
good
talk
writer,
comic
but man,
books.
he's the weirdo. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not go down that road.
Yeah, we're not doing a top 10 list. We're doing a Mount Rushmore. That way I don't have to put them in order. But there was nuance there. There were interesting things there. There were generational dynamics, because you have the kind of the Superman character and his wife. This is the first generation of superheroes ever. Well, and now they have kids, and the kids are growing up in the modern era. And so you're having to deal with that crap. And, there's some twists and turns. And then, of course, we don't have a second season. It is everything you would want in fantasy superhero storytelling. And then they just abandoned it.
So I'll have to check it out then. Yeah, because I got into a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about, what's, since the 1990 Bruce Timm animated Superman, what has been the best version of Superman that's come out since? I mean, that was 25 years ago, damn near 30 years. No, it came out in like 96, 97.
See, I've always hated Superman as a character, comic book, TV, movie.
Because and this is
my answer, by the way, was Saitama from One Punch Man.
Crap, I can't remember his name. That is Superman done right. Who is the guy who was the co-creator of Bane? Blank on his name. He was on Nerdrotic's channel a little while ago. I think he was on their Friday Night Tights, and he had no, he was on the real BBC. Giggity. And they were talking about comics and modern comics, and because he has done what a lot of people are doing now, which is getting outside of the established system, which goes right in line with what we're talking about with movies and TV that we're looking forward to. Same thing with comic books. If you get out of that system, and then you can create yourself, and I think it's obviously it's probably a little easier with comic books, but he made a couple of astounding statements that need to be memes and t-shirts. One of them that, stamp this on your forehead, Hollywood.
You're talking about Dixon?
Yes. Okay.
Chuck Dixon. Yeah.
Comic books aren't supposed to be representational. They never have been. They're aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
And going along with that was what he said about Superman, which is why, to Sam's point, why there's kind of this dichotomy of love-hate with Superman, is because Superman done badly is bad. But here's what he said about Superman, which I loved, is that I can't relate to Superman. Nobody can relate to Superman, but I can relate to Clark Kent. And that's the real point of Superman, is that if you don't do Clark Kent right, then you're never going to do Superman right. And that's where Jupiter's Legacy really nails it, is because they show you the backstory of this character and how he came to be who he is. And that's where you get to relate to him, because when you first see him, he's this Superman-like character, and he's kind of a dick because he's kind of rigid. He's kind of black and white, and and he's being kind of harsh with his children. But then you see how he came to be there, and you really start to relate to him. You really start to empathize with him, and you can't do that if you don't have an understanding of the reality of human nature, which is what postmodernism rejects. It rejects human nature.
Well, that's one of the things that, in the Pixar movie Up, the commentary said we had to include those first 10 minutes so that you would understand why the old man was such a bastard.
Otherwise, you would not like
Otherwise,
that
you
character.
would exactly. You would hate hate him. It's like, why is he mistreating this kid? Why is So you have to set things up like that. So, yeah, I haven't heard anything that you've said that I've disagreed with. So, did you have anything, Sam?
No, I am.
See, as of this point, we're just a bunch of middle-aged men whining about shit. So. The best entertainment that I can find is 20 years old. So
no, I do hope that there's a turnaround in this. And it seems like there's signs of a turnaround in Hollywood, because they're not making money, and at some point they have to.
That's been good. The COVID has been good for that. It basically seriously gut punched every single studio. And now the problem is that it takes a good 2 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
and to get through stuff that's being greenlit now, we'll see 2-3 years from now. So the stuff that was still being greenlit, Zaslav took over, started chopping heads off over there at Warner,
Mm-hmm.
meaning they put 2 and 2 together real quick,
Mm-hmm.
and realized they had to make some drastic changes.
Well, that was one of the most astounding things I heard about Warner, was when I heard that they were literally bankrupt. They literally had no money. That is one of their big problems, is they have to release these movies, even though they don't actually have the money to market them.
Yep. Take the tax loss on Flashpoint, take the tax loss on Aquaman 2, and basically just severely work the tent poles, make sure that every single movie coming out right now is a crowd pleaser. But even then, you're still looking at, as I said, 2024 before we really see the ramifications of the decisions that were made late last year. So this is not going to be a quick turnaround, even if people pull their heads out of their asses and realize woke ideology and postmodernism is not the way to make money. The machine cannot pivot fast enough to really make a noticeable difference culturally or whatever. It's like, we've been saying, and
hopefully one of these studios realizes that even if production money and value is down a little bit, an actually engaging story is going to sell.
Mhm.
then like you just brought up the video earlier where it was a small budget, but it was a cult classic. If
Yeah,
we can
Lady
get
Hawk. Good
yeah
old Lady. You do need to get that as a palate cleanser. Go back and watch that. Rock out to the synthesizer music.
Great
That
synthesizer.
is the one. That is the one of the major issues I have with that movie. It's the reason why it can't be like a true classic, is because you could tell it's lodged firmly in the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, they didn't have the operatic score or the classical or anything. They went synthesizer, and it.
Oh, but that's why I liked the old Lou Ferrigno Hercules.
My concern, to your point, Chuck, is how many companies will actually see that? Because to
Well,
Zaslav's
that's the thing.
credit,
All we need is the one that does and sells.
true.
Yeah.
But you would think that some of these would have seen it a long time ago, which is why something we've talked about, Sam, is that they're in a cult. This
They
isn't
are.
an ideology. This is a cult when you look at how they
It's a cult
act.
bubble. When they say that this is trolls, this is a troll campaign coming out to ruin them, a lot of them genuinely think that. That's the scary thing, is that everyone outside of that bubble knows that no, that's your paying consumer, your customer. That's what they're legit saying.
But for
Ignore them
Amazon
at your whim.
and for Amazon and their hot garbage of Rings of Power, it's not, because their paying customer are the people who, order something off of Amazon every week, if not every day. So they can prop up that hot garbage.
Yeah.
Disney,
My camera right here.
Yeah. This
Disney
arrived today, and that arrived
this
today.
was
And
ordered.
it's like, yeah, that's where they got the money for Rings of Power. So the problem
Disney
is
has the parks. They have their humongous catalog. So they have all of that. And so they have been propping up a streaming service that is a massive money loser,
Mhm.
but they don't have to care yet. I mean, maybe at some point they will, but I mean, if they've been going a couple
Hopefully
years
it gets
down the
released that
drain
they
here.
invested into FTX and they lost like $5 billion and
One
in
key-
violation of FTC rules, and hopefully
there-
they get.
There have been a couple stories out lately that up to like 2/3 of all Disney Plus uh subscribers aren't actually paying customers.
Right. They get that free tutorial, the free thing, and then they cancel it, and then they sign
Get
up
a
for
new
another email address.
get a Verizon phone and get Disney Plus for a year. Well, that goes on the books as a user.
Yep.
But they're not paying for that service.
And here's the thing. You're gonna watch the things you wanted to watch in the first month.
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't know anybody who's like, oh shoot, the next season of Bad Batch is out. I have to renew my Disney subscription. And I didn't have a problem with Bad Batch. I really didn't. But am I
I don't
going to
even
get
know
a
what the fuck that is.
Disney subscription to watch Bad Batch? No, I'm going to wait until I go over to my sister's house. Bad Batch is basically the follow-up to the Clone Wars. So, if you're into the animated Star Wars stuff, which, yeah, Clone Wars was awesome.
I thought it was
Rebels
something with
okay.
Garbage Pail Kids or something.
No. Which if you like Star Wars and if you kind of mourn the loss of Star Wars, because Star Wars to me is a dead relative at this point. I've accepted the fact that it's gone, but I can still go back and reminisce about the good times, right?
Yeah, I can
have
watch the old
friends-
version on Betamax. It's
Right. I have friends that can't even do that. They've just, they're sick to it. But I can sit back and say, in my opinion, Clone Wars at its best was Star Wars at its best. And Clone Wars at its worst was that remake of Temple of Doom, starring Jar Jar as Indiana Jones and Mace Windu as Short Round. And if you know. That is a two-parter episode in Clone Wars. but that's the thing, is that that had more heart in it than any of the schlock coming out nowadays. Say what you will about Jar Jar Binks being Indiana Jones or whatever, but good grief, I am at least entertained by the concept of that train wreck. I want to just go, I want to see Mace Windu just beat the shit out of, just get frustrated at Jar Jar Binks and choke him out. You know, that there's something about that makes me smile, even though I wasn't a fan of those episodes.
Because it was done by people who at least respected the source material.
Bingo,
even if it was a terrible idea, it was done by people who genuinely respected the source material and the people who came before them.
It had heart, and that's what I'm saying. It's better than any of the schlock nowadays. And that's sad that since basically in 7 years, basically the Walt Disney Corporation has killed my love of something that I made a parade float in high school using
that was a
pond
great
scum.
parade. It smelled like
pond scum. But you know, it was like
you sacrificed your nipple for that pond scum.
That perch was vicious. But you know, it was I remember I said this once about football. I miss liking Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I miss liking football. It's not that I miss football. I miss liking football. I miss liking Star Wars. I miss liking Willow. Because I'm one of those people that actually like that movie. You know,
I like the original Willow.
Yeah. Great cult classic fantasy family, but still enjoyable as you grow older movie.
Yeah. And you see that nowadays. You know, I have no interest in that new series, and I don't care what they say about Kit and her girlfriend. And
I was trying to,
you know what they can reboot that would be good if they can get not woke? Beastmaster. Remember that?
Weren't there like 4 Beastmaster movies though?
Yeah, and they were all horribly great.
Horribly is the right word there.
Was there a TV show, a low budget TV show about it too? Or
yes, I think
something else?
No, I think there was. I think there was.
Beastmaster, the series, you know. So yeah, we're all in that same age, reminiscing about the good old days.
We can bring back He-Man.
It was done a couple of years. Kevin Smith brought it back last year.
Yeah. No. I mean,
as a continuation of the classic series, right? And that's the problem, is that you can't. In this, it's going to require a couple of years of, you know, let's go through 2023 and have another couple of big hits like Top Gun, like Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, you know, you can go through the ones that actually succeeded at the box office, that overperformed specifically in the box office, and you can draw some conclusions to those. Let's see this upcoming year what is able to do that exact sort of stuff, and then hopefully by then Hollywood will have, because Hollywood immediately put its head in the sand and said it's all COVID's fault that audiences aren't showing up anymore. This is all superhero fatigue. They had a million excuses that were all coming out of their marketing departments, and they believed this stuff. And it's like, no, the paying customer was just tired of your bullshit at this point. And like Marvel Phase 4, you can just watch the numbers on it.
Part of that's not just the wokeness. It's part of it is just the this made money. Let's keep going and going and going. Like the Viking series from History Channel, that was really good. But then we got Vikings Valhalla. We got this and how many Viking shows have you seen since then? It just saturated the market. I mean,
that's true with anything, though.
I've heard good things about Viking Valhalla, but I haven't even thought about watching it because I've seen 20 seasons of Viking shows since then.
You're going to have that, though. You know, Volcano versus Dante's Peak, Armageddon versus Deep Impact. You're going to have when one studio actually runs the risk of releasing something and it works out, all the other studios will pile on and immediately make people sick of that genre pretty damn quick. And it's like, okay, superheroes for a while got away from it, got away with it. And what ended up happening was they kind of forgot with Endgame that when you actually end the story, there's no reason for the audience to show back up for the next ones because you ended the story unless you set up another good story. And that's the thing, is that,
which is why I liked what they did for a little bit with like Netflix, where they did the shorter versions, like the Daredevil series and the Luke Cage series, and
the more
those were little
ones.
blips that you could just kind of binge for a little bit and then take a break, and then
even they weren't perfect. I mean, good grief, the Defenders, it's like somehow you made the undead demonic ninjas boring. How did you do that?
I liked the Daredevil one, but I didn't like the Defenders.
Right, and that's the problem, is that all of those street level heroes had some good stuff that they could have offered. Specifically, I liked, like the first 4 or 5 episodes of Daredevil of the first season, and like the first 4 or 5 episodes of Daredevil in the second season, and the first couple episodes of Luke Cage, and I think that most of those stories got off to a really good start. And then they were like, well, we have to, we have to fill up 12 episodes, so let's keep it going. What was
streaming services seem to have this problem of, it's either too many episodes, or like we were just talking about, not enough. Of like, why Expanse did this too, is the last season of the Expanse was supposed to be, a few more, like 4 more episodes, and then 2 more episodes, and then we'll just leave it at 6, I think is what it ended up being. And
which is funny, because one of my favorite series was saved by streaming, because it was originally FX, and it had 20 something episodes every season. And I think season 4, it went to Netflix and it went down to 10, and it was just right, which was Lucifer. Lucifer was a funny show when it was with FX, and then it went to Netflix and it became semi-serious and funny. And the 10 episodes per season was just right. But the 20 something was a little bit kind of going on and on and on.
Well, what ends up happening, and this is where talented people that have a lot of experience can balance it. You go X-Files route, where some of your episodes contributed to the overall story, and some of the episodes are monster.
Well, and that's what Lucifer did too.
And
there
that's
would
what
be
you
about
kind of
2
have
or 3
to do when
which
you
were
stretch
random
something out, because you come up with enough content for 8-10 episodes or whatever. And the problem with a lot of the Netflix Marvel,
which is stuff, where Witcher could have gone right, because they could have had 3 or 4 episodes of him hunting something.
Right. A contract, just one contract an episode, and you could have it didn't even need to be based on the books necessarily. Granted, I think it would have been better if you based it off the books, because a lot of those, I think my favorite episode of the second series was the very first episode with Nivellen, the monster man in the magical mansion. And it's like, that's pretty damn close. Granted, they made, much like the Boy Who Cried Wolf, they made some changes to that story. They kind of changed the meaning of it, the point of it. But overall, that first episode of season 2 was pretty damn good. And it was pretty faithful to at least, not necessarily the theme or the moral, but at least the literal step-by-step of a lot of what happened.
All right. Well,
I'm scrolling through IMDb and trying to find something I'm excited about. And it's like the first thing I come across is Cocaine Bear. So
the previews to that look funny, but at the same time, I don't know if I can invest a whole.
That's not a movie theater movie, So it's like, all right, I'll watch that. I ain't paying movie theater prices for that though.
The last movie I went to go see in theaters was Conan the Barbarian 40th anniversary. That was like 2 months ago. How did I not
see that?
Yeah, it was nice. They brought it back into theaters. The kill your enemy, driven before you, hear the lamentations of the women, all on the big screen. Heck yeah. Those are the movies that I usually go see. I went to see It, or The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Jaws. I watched the re-release of the original Jaws. And those are the movies that I typically watch. But then again, as I said, we've all reached the point where we are old men that are only interested in the things from our youth. So
that is something that annoys me, and I hadn't thought of when we were talking about the woke garbage. The last movie I went and saw at theaters was Devotion, and I liked it so much I went and got the book. And that's a movie about race to an extent, but it's not all that the movie is about. And they do it incredibly well. And it's shocking, but it's not shocking because I know how these people think. The woke cult should be touting this movie, but because it doesn't preach their message their way, crickets. It's a phenomenal movie. It is, in a lot of ways, it's like Top Gun Maverick. It's old fashioned in that it is telling, a very tight story about, heroic men doing heroic things. And it just came and went.
Let's see. 2 times I've been to the movies since The Matrix, the original Matrix. 2 times I've been to the movie since then, and it was, I took my son when he was 3 years old to watch The Good Dinosaur, which, I mean, for a 3-year-old, that was fun for him.
Yeah, good.
And we both, me and him, went to see Endgame, Marvel Endgame.
Nice.
And then it was at Endgame that I realized they don't sell the big box of Mike and Ike's anymore.
What?
And now that they don't have the big box of Mike and Ike's, I do not want to go to the movie theater at all. That's like the most enjoyable part.
You go to horrible movie theaters. I go to the ones that are like entire Walmart candy aisle.
I go to the ones that bring me a gin and tonic to my seat.
Oh, one of those, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's snooty.
That's why I don't go very often, because if I'm going to go, by golly, I want them to bring me a double to my seat.
See, I go to the ones with the recliners. So I can't eat with I could eat, I guess, but it would be like a a sea otter with the nachos on my belly. And I'm smacking them with a rock, and maybe that, but other
Did we
people might
mention
get
that
upset
we're
at that.
old and grumpy?
I'm not grumpy. I love
I'm very
everything
grumpy.
except I actually like Witcher Blood Origin. I think it's great because I think it will help Netflix lose money. And I hope that the 1-2 punch of Witcher BO, as from Heel versus Babyface calls it, Witcher BO, and Cavill saying "screw you guys," I'm gonna leave and start my own.
The last season of Stranger
and
Things is coming out this year, and Cobra Kai is probably done. So then what does Netflix have?
A void. It has it has a vacuum.
They're going to keep some shows going on, like You was real popular, and now they're on like season 5, even though you're pretty much done after season 1.
They're severely cutting back already, though. There are already complaints about the number of shows that they are currently canceling, because it's like, yeah, Netflix understands it's losing money now. Its subscriber base shrunk, and it's projected to shrink even more in 2023. So unless they've got like a true game winner that they know they can milk,
yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Prediction on if they figure it out, because that's the interesting thing about Netflix is Netflix figured this out last year, that they were in trouble, and they kind of figured out why they were in trouble when they sent out the internal memo that said, if you have a problem with Dave Chappelle, shut up and do your damn job. But they haven't figured out how to fix it, which is tell a good frickin' story. So
is it possible? Is it really possible for them to tell a good story when you see the talent that's out there in terms of writers, directors, etc.?
Well, and here's the thing. Again, I'll bring up Lucifer again. They need to figure out, we need to find a good story. It's not, we need to develop a good story. We need to find something, because when they took that show on, they cut it down to their normal format, which is 10 episodes per season, an hour an episode versus the 30 minutes and all of those characteristics. But they kept Jerry Bruckheimer on, and they kept all the original producers and writers and etc. on, the actors, and basically just said, here, tell the exact same freaking story, but within these episodes. And it was perfectly fine.
See, I just want to see more Witcher Blood Origin. I want to see a season 2 to Cowboy Bebop. I want to see another season of She-Hulk. I want to see these postmodernist douchebag companies lose as much money as they possibly can until they get the radical idea of maybe we should stop insulting our fans. Maybe we should understand these are the paying customers. And if they are dead set and determined to not pay for this, we kind of have to be nice to them and hope that they come back. But I have zero faith, because I can be happy and have no.
Yeah, but I don't even like that solution, because when you get to the mindset of we have to be nice to them so they come back, you end up in a pandering stage. And you basically swing the pendulum the other direction, where it's
Show
crap
me more
in the other
chainmail
direction.
bikinis. Hurt me. Yeah, it's
Scale
go back
mail.
to the gratuitous nudity of the 80s. That's really gonna upset me. Pander to me, make me feel important.
So they got to go full Skinamax.
Hell yeah. You know what? I just, I want to go back to RoboCop, where hard R movies were advertised to children. They had the toy line, they had the cartoon. Bitches leave. You could be, playing with your Clarence Bodiger and RoboCop and get the Barbies in there. Bitches leave. I don't know. Maybe I was weird, but
did you read Joe Bob Briggs' movie reviews where he told you how many boobs were in it?
I mean,
it was a syndicated column. It was Joe Bob Briggs, and it was he was a comedic writer, and he would write this syndicated column of movie reviews, and he would review schlock. And so at the end, he would tell you what was important, which was like, deaths, dismemberments, number of boobs, and that would lead to his rating.
Nice. Yeah, it'll be an interesting. We are in this weird. What's the old Roman curse? May you live in interesting times. Yeah, that's where we are right now. This is this weird societal change that's been taking place. Well, for the last 10 years or so, that some people
it's culminated in the last 10 years.
It's culminated. You're absolutely right. I'm not saying that it started 10 years ago. I'm just saying that just the swirling vortex of shitstorm has really come to a pimple head here in the last 10 years.
Thelma and Louise hit the gas about 10 years ago, and the last couple of years we've finally gone off the cliff.
Yeah. So
well, I see a little bit of a geographical change, because you see Silicon Valley kind of moving to Texas right now. It's just a matter of time before you see Hollywood type stuff moving as well. So yeah,
that's not a good thing. Yeah,
oh, that's right. You're closer to the Silicon Valley crap than we are.
Yeah, Hill Country, Central Texas area is being inundated with these little piss bitches that keep coming here, and I got to be careful, because I don't want to get your channel banned.
Why not?
So what you're saying is I need to bring the boys up to the Hill Country, and we can go out to the clubs, and we would be the manliest men there.
Yes,
Probably.
Well, it's just the Californians come in. They've sold their house in California, their piece of crap house in California, for $700,000, and they come into Central Texas, and all the houses here are like nearly mansions compared to what they could have afforded.
Oh
there.
No, yeah. I've got 4,000 square feet, and we would be able. What we paid for this house, we would barely be able to get a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco.
So yeah, they come in, they just swirl up all of the real estate, all the houses. And for someone like me who's currently living in a little apartment right now, I'm sitting here kind of waiting for the housing bubble to burst again, just so I can buy some property.
This
Yeah, but
year, this year,
any minute now. Any
2023.
minute now.
I've been saying any minute now for about 5 or 6 years, though. That's the thing. So, anywho, we've gone
Yeah, we've
completely.
rambled.
You know, I said my previous video that the storyline to Witcher has gone off the rails, gotten onto a raft, and floated down the mighty Mississippi. That's kind of what we've done here tonight. We are currently chilling with N-word Jim, and
I was just about to.
Oh, I tried to edit that out of the last one. I couldn't find it.
you tried to clip it so that
I
you could
tried to
show it?
clip it. You know.
Oh, okay.
Are
Yeah, I'll
we-
bring it up again.
It's still there. It's still there though. So
Is
You
Netflix?
know what? Yeah, you can you can go ahead and clip this one. You can
Well,
take
that
my
one didn't
earlier-
get taken down, so I'm sure we're fine.
That's good.
Uh,
I said N-word. I didn't say anything.
It's not like
Oh,
we're reading Kanye lyrics or anything.
Yeah. It's not like I mentioned John Voight's balls or anything. We got anything else to ramble about?
No, I need to pull one out and go to bed, I think.
Okay. Whatever that means. So thank
Yes.
you both. Thank
No
you
idea.
both for putting up with me. And however you usually sign off, go right ahead.
We usually sign off by saying, huh? What? How did we get here?
Get off my lawn.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.